Today I'm going to show you how to teach your dog to go from a down position to a sit position using the action that I call push. First, let me show you what it looks like. Let's look at that again in slow motion. I've put a blue mark on the screen by Laser's fuzzy little butt and a green mark by his front paws to show where each of these are at the start. Notice at the completion of the push that Laser's rear is still in the exact same place it was before. His front end did all the work as he pushed himself back and up. Also notice how far back his front feet are from where they started. I teach the dog to do it this way to make sure he can't ever creep forward in utility signals when going from the down to the sit. Next, Ray and I are going to show you how to teach it. I hold a treat between my thumb and first finger and extend the other fingers so that my hand looks similar to my eventual utility signal. Then I place the treat right at Ray's nose and use it to lure him up and back. Here it is again. Notice that my hand has to go up and away from me at an angle to draw Ray up into the sit position. It's easier to reach if the dog is nice and close to you. If the dog makes a mistake, just abort that attempt and get him to lie back down so that you can try again. For a small dog, I like to kneel on the floor to get down at his level. You could also put the dog up on a bed or table. For larger dogs, it is still nice to start down on their level, but you can also stand and bend over if that is easier for you. After a few repetitions, your dog should be following the treat in your hand quite readily. As soon as you can, preferably in the first session, you want to get the food out of your hand so your dog doesn't become dependent on its presence. So once your dog has the idea, try doing it with an empty hand, but do it the same as before, including putting your thumb and first finger together. Basically, pretend you are still holding a treat. Then, once your dog has completed the push, use your signal hand to get a treat and give it to him. The next step is to do the push with a completely open hand so your dog knows there is not food in it. Notice how Ray sniffs my hand for food at first. You may have to go back and forth between this step and the previous one a few times before your dog will do the push reliably with an open hand. At some point, as you work with an open hand, you will notice that your dog is starting to push himself up before your hand gets all the way to his nose. When that happens, you should be able to complete the signal without ever making contact with his nose. However, you should still be reaching well past the point that your dog's front feet were to start. Once your dog can do the push with an open hand close to his nose but not touching, practice like this for a few days. Be aware that at first your dog may need a review of the earlier steps at the beginning of each training session. When your dog is reliably doing the push with your open-handed signal, the next step is to gradually increase the distance between your signal's endpoint and your dog's nose, like this. Then this, then this. As you increase the distance, pay close attention to your dog's form. to make sure he is continuing to do the push correctly. Here is an example of a dog whose form has started to deteriorate as his handler's signal has gotten further away. He is still primarily pushing back with his front feet, but he is also hopping forward a little with his back feet. If this is allowed to continue, the forward movement of the rear is likely to get worse, as the dog naturally wants to get closer to the handler and the food. Eventually, the front feet could start creeping forward as well. Anytime you see this happen, do not reward that attempt. Just have your dog lay back down and try again, with your hand closer for a repetition or two. If your dog persistently comes forward when you try to build distance, make sure that when he is correct, you reach close and high enough with the treat that he does not have to lean forward to reach it. Poor reward placement can create or worsen this problem. Compare the difference in Ray's posture in these two clips. The reward on the left makes him want to scooch closer to me. The reward on the right encourages him to keep his rear in place. With patience, repetition, and good reward placement, plus avoiding reward of incorrect efforts, you will be able to gradually get further and further away from your dog and still achieve a nice push back without needing to bend or reach towards him anymore. Next, if you started with your dog on the floor, move a little closer and work on being more upright. If you started with your dog on a raised surface, move him to something about half as high as the original surface. Finally, put your dog on the floor while you stand up. Now you have the foundation you need for the down-to-sit transition and utility signals. All that is left is to gradually increase your distance from your dog until he can do the push from 40 feet away. Thank you for watching, and good luck in your training.